is the Flex Network. Today, we have a very special guest joining us today. It is the 2018 Florida Dairy Farmers High School Football Coach of the Year, coach of the state champion Mandarin Mustangs, Coach Bobby Ramsay. How are you doing today, Bobby?
I'm doing great, man. Appreciate you guys having me.
Hey, thanks for coming on. Is it okay that I call you Bobby?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's good.
I just feel like I'm talking to such a prolific figure. I should call you Sir Ramsay at this point.
No, Bobby works great, man. Bobby works perfect.
Coach, I told you I got fanboys here. I brought in to interview.
Yeah.
So, Coach, thank you so much. We are a fantasy football podcast, but we're going to dip our toes into real analyzing of the game football today. That's why we brought you on. Can you tell our listeners a little bit just about you? I talked up the intro. You're head coach of the year, state champion Mandarin Mustangs. But give us a little bit about you, just for anybody who doesn't know.
Well, this is my 12th year as a head coach. Going into my third year at Mandarin, I was head coach for 9 years at Yulee High School, which is just north of Jacksonville, which is we're very well known for Derrick Henry. And before that, I was an assistant at another school in Jacksonville. Spent some time at a small college in Texas, Trinity University. Went to high school, played in San Antonio, Texas, played in college out in Abilene, Texas. So, I've been pretty much in the game steady since I was 14.
Awesome. That's rising through the ranks is kind of your story, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, I went to grad school in 2001 at FSU, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I got my degree in sport management, and I got on coaching at a local high school there, and it just sucked me in, and I'm still here. We are, almost 20 years later.
Yeah, well, it's a real big success story. Thank you. I'm a high school wrestling coach myself, and so I definitely understand how tough it is just coaching, high school athletics just in general. But like you had said, a little bit is you're kind of almost famous, or maybe you would call yourself famous. Derrick Henry, Heisman Trophy winner, Derrick, NFL Tennessee Titans great running back Derrick Henry.
Right.
You had coached him for his entirety at Yulee. Is that true? Or
yeah, I had him from his 9th grade year on.
And did you know then how much of a beast this man would become?
I mean, did I know he was going to set the national rushing record and win the Heisman and all that? Not when he was a 9th grader, but I knew he was going to be. I knew he was going to be a massive recruit. I knew he was going to be a major Division I player. I would have been in the 9th grade, he ran for 2,500 yards. So even then, you're like, okay, this guy's going to play in the NFL. As long as he stays healthy and keeps working hard, does the right things off the field. His character was solid and everything. And the longer he went in high school, it was just like, okay, yeah, he's going to play in the National Football League. I mean, there's just really no question about it. And obviously when he went to Alabama, it really opened a lot of doors for him to be a running back who could potentially win the Heisman. It doesn't really happen very often. It's usually a quarterback's award, and Alabama is probably the one school where you as a running back, you really have a good chance to win it. And I knew once he got his opportunity there, he would do well. And here he is now going into his 4th year with the Titans.
Yeah, and we're going to throw it to Cez here in just a sec, but that was a truly special year for college football. I mean, Derrick Henry was not only up for the Heisman Trophy, but he was up against two of the most, prolific NFL players of today, Deshaun Watson, Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
What an incredible win over two. It seemed like that whole entire Heisman night was just a real, just storied class acts between all three, combatants that were up for that trophy. And he ended up getting the win, and that must have been a very special time for you in your life.
Yeah, I mean, you're sitting there at the PlayStation Theater, and you're in the room with Eddie George and Doug Flutie, and all these greats had won the Heisman, and you're just sitting here thinking, like, this is not anything I ever really thought I'd get to experience firsthand. It was a great night. Fowler, Herbstreit, they do an awesome job. Corso, ESPN puts on a great show. I felt bad looking back because, Chris McCaffrey seemed like such a great kid. I watched his dad, Ed, growing up, and Deshaun Watson again, another. But you're like, man, for the next hour and a half, I just don't really like you guys very much right now.
Right. You got to root for my guy.
For my guy. But you knew then that you're looking at three guys that are going to go on and do great things past college.
And that they have says, how did this cast come about? How did we get Sir Ramsay on the podcast? No, sorry, excuse me, Bobby. Thanks.
Yeah.
How did we get him on the podcast? Says.
Well, I was being my usual annoying self, and he was talking to somebody at a conference that I saw Coach Ramsay at, and I just walked up to him. He's a really approachable, friendly guy, and I just told him what we do here, and that I do my hits on Sirius XM with Roster Watch, and I've been on. I have a fantasy football show, and I asked Coach if he plays fantasy. Coach, you said you haven't played fantasy football. Is that correct?
I have before. It's just really hard for me with everything that we have going on, keeping track of the bye weeks and who's injured, who's not. We're usually busy Sunday mornings, doing something. So yeah. I mean, I'm not around when like Glazier's saying who's in or out. So I definitely keep up with the game, but I've played a couple times, but I haven't. I wouldn't put myself on any. I wouldn't put myself out there as a fantasy big dude.
Well,
yeah,
Coach, well, it's hard. Hold on, it's hard to draft Derrick Henry in every round of your fantasy football draft.
Yeah. I mean, I probably would draft him, right off the bat. Maybe I don't know if I probably should or shouldn't, but
you should.
From that point on, I'd have to really do my homework, and I know it's something people put a lot of time and interest in studying the
and money,
yeah, which is what motivates the research. So. I just gotta make sure, hopefully I'll get to a point where I have a little bit more time and
after you put all your high school championship trophies, you can eventually put some fantasy football belts on.
Well, and I'm afraid to join a league and coming in last and have to get like some horrible tattoo, like that's really fear. Right. Like, well, I gotta join a league where it's just money based and I don't have to get a tattoo of like Louis Anderson on my thigh or something.
These guys, Coach, we're the same age. These guys, they don't even know if they know who Louis Anderson is, but
okay.
But I'm right there.
You now, if that'll maybe be a reference.
They'll get Louis C.K. on them.
Right.
Coach Ramsay seen locally on the corner of a street in a dress.
Right. That's another. I mean, I've heard the horror stories, so I'm like, I don't know.
So let's fire him off here.
Yeah, that's how I met Coach at a physical education. We're both physical education teachers, and we met at a conference or a pre-planning meeting, and he was gracious enough to talk to me a little bit, and I said, "Wow, this guy would be great on the radio," and sure enough, he's here. So. Coach, couple quick questions that the fantasy football community really wants to know. We'll start with Derrick Henry, since you've seen him grow into a professional athlete.
Right.
Derrick Henry, it's in high school. How many carries a game was he getting? Because in the NFL, in his first 2 years, he's averaging about 10 to 13 carries a game. And that doesn't seem like enough, because he's at his best when he's getting 20 plus. He seems like he's a kind of back that gets better as the game goes on.
His ninth grade year, the last couple games, one game he got at 43, the other game he got at 46. I was waiting for Child Protective Services to come along and arrest me. His senior year, the night he broke the national rushing record in the playoffs, he got it 58 times. Wow. Which, looking back, it sounds crazy, but at the time I tell people, like, we needed every one of those carries and every one of those yards to win the game. So I remember watching the game in the SEC championship with the year he won the Heisman, and they were talking about how he had carried it 43 times, and that was a little excessive. And I remember thinking he'd carry it 53 times if he had to. And, the thing about him is I think you hit the nail on the head. He gets better as the game goes on. And if you watch him, he never really takes big shots. He falls forward a lot. He's able to protect his body in such a way. I think guys, when they come up to tackle him, their main concern is like, I just got to get this guy on the ground. I'm not going to come up and I'm not going to, waylay him. I just got to get this guy on the ground. So they're more thinking about, tackle/business decision, I think, sometimes. And there's runs he's had, like the one he had against Jacksonville last year, where I'm like, that kind of looks like one of his runs in high school, where he gets out into the secondary and I'm thinking, those DBs don't want to really tackle him any more than the DBs we played against. So, he's a slave to developing his body. He always has been. And I just don't really think I know everybody's big on nowadays on, carries and, how much mileage you accumulate as a running back. I just don't really think it applies with him. I mean, I think he's a guy that you could give the ball to 30 times and he's going to want it 31.
Well, yeah. So that you and I had talked off air about that a little bit. That he's not worried about the workload and the wear on the tire, so to speak. No. And what really what differentiates the very good running backs from the elite fantasy backs in fantasy football is the pass catching ability. And to date, Derrick Henry has not been, let's say, an elite pass catcher, but sometimes it's just NFL coaching. They don't, for some reason, don't throw him the football. Is that a skill that he has in his tool bag, or is that something that is he more of a yards and touchdown guy? Can you talk a little bit about his pass catching prowess from high school forward?
I don't think you're ever going to put him in like the Christian McCaffrey category or something along those lines. He's at his best when he has the football running downhill. Having said that, one of the skills that I think he really developed in college was the ability to catch it. And you've seen them use him in the screen game some. They've motioned him out and just thrown him kind of the quick hot stuff to get some yards. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Yeah, we're there. We're here with Coach Ramsay from Mandarin High School, state champion.
They are state champions. Coach Bobby Ramsay here. 2018 Dairy Farmers Florida Coach of the Year, coached Derrick Henry in high school. We just asked him, we asked him what everybody wants to know about his pass catching ability. Go ahead, Coach Ramsay, continue.
So he can be utilized there. I think that in order to stay on the field as a back, you have to be able to do all three things. You have to be able to run. Obviously, you have to be able to catch the ball. You have to be able to protect in the passing game and make sure. And that was something when he got to Alabama, we knew he was going to have to learn as well. But I think he's been such a guy that it seems like he had DeMarco Murray there his first couple of years. And they're the way he rotates. I think it's just kind of last year was Dion Lewis for a while. I think it's really just the nature of what they're going to do when he's in the game. I mean, it may line up that they say, hey, let's throw him the ball. They may have a pass play called. Okay, Derrick's in the game. He's a factor in it. Or they may just focus on him as a runner. I don't really know. I know everybody's big on putting guys into kind of specific roles as a player. Is he a pass catcher? Is he a runner? Is he an between the tackles guy? Derrick can do all those things. I think he just doesn't fit the physical mold of when people think of a pass catching back, it's usually, your 5'10", 5'11" guy who can make a guy miss, where Derrick's going to catch the ball and he's going to go forward. But if he goes forward with space in front of him, it's the same problem you have when you give him the ball out of the backfield. Is you got to get him on the ground, and that's going to be tough to do. So I think the more snaps he gets, the more likelihood is that they'll throw the ball to him and take advantage of that as well.
What about like the Wildcat formation? They had some success last year.
My favorite, man. I loved the Wildcat in high school, man. I was like, and when I saw them do that, I was like, oh, that's because if you don't set the numbers right in the box and you don't account for the extra guy, if he makes the right read and pulls it, he's gone. And I know they have a new OC there. The guy LaFleur went up to Green Bay, but Wildcat, it seems to really, when you throw it in there, NFL all of a sudden they're like, hey, sorry, it's my dog. NFL, they really start to. Like you saw when the Dolphins did about 10, 11 years ago with Ronnie Brown, when you throw it in there, all of a sudden, it's something that can really be effective. And, I know they have the Humphreys guy there now as maybe a jet motion guy that he can show it out to, pull it and go. But his junior and senior year in high school, we did a lot of Wildcat. And, he never really did it at Alabama, but he's very effective in that role, and I hope that's something that when they, especially when you get 10-yard line and in, that maybe that's something that they incorporate.
Now, Coach, did you use the Wildcat offense purely because at any point in time you just get the ball in Derrick Henry's hands and he's basically taking it to the house?
Much.
I mean,
yeah,
it's like a Konami code of today's Kyler Murray's, your Russell Wilson's, Cam Newton's.
Yeah, I mean, you're putting the ball in your best athlete's hands. You're creating a numbers advantage, and if you're creative with the way you run your formation or what you maybe do with your jet motion, it can be very effective. And in this day and age in the NFL of everybody's defending pass first, if you can come out and surprise them with it, you can be very effective. So I think it's an easy way to get the ball in your best player's hand, and at the same time create a numeric advantage, because that's really what the Wildcat does. Because Mariota's a runner, but you don't normally account for the quarterback in the run game very much. But now, so that puts you down a man as as an offense playing versus the defense. But now when he has the ball, it's really and truly 11 on 11 in the run game.
Hey, Coach, we are talking right here with Mandarin head coach Bobby Ramsay, state champions last year. Hey, Coach, I got a real honest question, and it's a two-parter, okay? One, have you ever seen Derrick Henry bleed? Because here's the thing, Coach. Here's the thing, Coach. You ready for this, okay? I am not sure if he is a bag of meat and bones under there, because it shows on his game tape that he is in fact a robot. Is Derrick Henry a robot?
Well, I mean, he used to like to have a Snickers as a snack before games in high school. So I'm gonna lean on human with that, just because of that one. But I remember when he left to go to Alabama, he was already jacked. I mean, he was, I was like, he's got muscles in places that you didn't know you had muscles.
I just want to piggyback on what you said there, Coach, about their snacks. And I know, growing up playing sports, that we would eat Snickers, but whatever, Marshawn Lynch with the Skittles. And now it's more known about how important a role of nutrition plays in peak performance. Is that something that you're doing with the high school players now, is stressing the importance of proper nutrition?
Yeah, you definitely, hydration is huge. We're in Florida. It's really, really hot. So we're constantly talking to the kids about, what they need to put in their bodies, staying away from caffeine. I think you'd always like to be able to do more. We can't provide for them what the colleges or the NFL teams can, as far as really watching over their diet and providing them with meals like we'd like to. But pregame meals we give them on Fridays. We always make sure it's something that we feel like is going to fuel them up. But he's, like I said, that's kind of his only vice when it comes to food. I mean, he's
a lot of players. Yeah. They don't, because they're so gifted athletically. They don't realize sometimes.
Yeah. And what I've preferred nutritionally for him to have a Snickers. No, but I always subscribe to keep the talent happy.
Yep, absolutely. And you've done a great job at that. We're going to transition now over to what could be a future fantasy star, and that is your quarterback, Carson Beck. Who he is back for another year. You're going to go defend the title. He currently is a Georgia commit.
Right.
And he looks to have another great year. And what kind of traits do you see in Carson right now that you think may not only propel him to be dominate at the college level, but eventually can be a prolific quarterback? And our listeners want to know, is this someone that they could do? What we do in fantasies, we have developmental squads where we draft players that are in high school, put them on what we call our taxi or Debbie squads, and wait till they develop professionally. Do you see Carson as someone that has the upside to really translate to the pro game, and what specific traits?
Yeah, I mean, I've told people before, I've said it in front of him, I think he's going to be number one pick in the draft in a few years. I mean, I just think he's got, when you look at what they're looking for at quarterbacks on that level, the physical traits obviously stand out, but he's very intelligent. He loves the game. He studies it a lot. And I think that's really what separates the quarterbacks at the NFL, is the guys who get in there at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. and don't leave till till 7 or 8 at night, because they're just so much a slave to their craft and watching film and developing themselves. And he really is that kind of guy when it comes to quarterback, when it comes to football. He has a lot of fun. And one similarity between him and Derrick is, like, it's a game to them. It's fun, and it's something that you can tell that they really just enjoy being out there. They see the game a little differently than some other guys, because I think of the way it comes to them. But I think he's everything that, as far as the cerebral, the ability to make quick decisions, accurate down the field, all those things. I really just think he's got a huge future in front of him. And he's a football dude. That was kind of like with Derrick. They're just like, what else do they do? Like, Derrick won the Parade Player of the Year award his senior year, and when they called me for the article, they said, our readership is about 90% or 60% female. So we kind of take a different angle on the article and talk about, like, things they do off the field and this and that. And, like, one kid used to play the piano and one kid was a painter. And I'm thinking to myself, Derrick's got a lot of tattoos. That's about it. Skin's really expensive. But that's the same thing with Carson. Like, they do football. And, I think where the game is now, with everything they put on the quarterback's shoulder, the amount of the game plan falls into the quarterback's breadbasket. You've got to be a guy that just eats, sleeps, and breathes it, and he does that.
Coach, Carson Beck, for our, we will have just audio listeners. So again, this is Mandarin High School head coach Bobby Ramsay, Derrick Henry's high school head coach. Thanks for tuning in. For our audio listeners, they didn't get a chance to look at the video we just put up, which is Carson Beck high school highlights. He looks amazing. If you just watch that 2-minute tape, he has what it takes. It seems. Now, he's under the tutelage of you. Can you is there something that you saw in Derrick that you see in Carson all the same, even though they're playing two different positions? And obviously, as you said, the quarterback position is the elite premier, position to be. Geez, it must be real tough to make it at the next level. But what about Carson that makes him so special? It was very similar to Derrick when you were coaching him.
I think the conversations that you can have with players like that, they see the game a little differently. I remember Derrick's 9th grade year. It was a game late in the year, and we were down inside the 10 looking for the right play. The OC suggest this, and Derrick kind of chimes in and goes, "Oh no, wait, remember we tried that here like 5 weeks ago and they did this, so we, the coach like, okay, well, yeah, let's do this instead." And as a 9th grader, you're just like, what? Like, I really like,
unbelievable knowledge of the game.
Yeah, and I think just the ability, again, because the game comes to them in an easier way than it does to other players, they're able to retain those memories. And Carson's the same way. You can step aside. He knows more about playing quarterback than I'll ever know. And you can really have conversations with him where, like, you could say to Derrick, "Hey man, what do you like this week? What do you feel good about wanting to run?" And with Carson, you can say the same thing. "Okay, Carson, what do you want to throw against this? What do you like against this?" And I think really what it boils down to is the trust factor that they develop because they've proven themselves over and over again. It's again, that's just why I think, as the game gets more complex, and I think certain people fall back or don't play as well as they did in high school because the complexity of the game gets to them, I think he's just going to thrive in that.
Yeah, I think Carson, he definitely looks the part. To finish this a little bit on Carson Beck, I'm from Washington State. I'm specifically from literally like 15 minutes away from a high school where there was a Georgia commit that Eason. So what information or what kind of like just a little help that you can give Carson that I'm sure you have been just as far as that? It seems like they have a really forward football team. They're expecting high level play in that offense. I mean, geez, just like Derrick Henry going to Alabama. I mean, geez, you don't walk into just any college, and expect to be the guy. So what kind of tidbits can you give to a Carson Beck to make sure that the game's not too big for him?
Number one, take care of yourself first and foremost. Make sure that you're doing everything that you need to do as far as your body, your work ethic. I think as long as the intangibles are right, and I think that's the main thing you worry about with guys like that. It's not talent that and you can only coach these guys so much. I always told people coaching Derrick was like being the guy that touches up the Mona Lisa. You don't want to do too much to it and give it eyebrows and ruin the painting. You just want to make it look nicer. So, I think
it's a great analogy, actually. It's really
I would say it's like that movie Days of Thunder. When Randy Quaid's trying to get Robert.
Not
Duvall.
another old reference that I'm supposed to get.
No, these guys don't know. But that was
you said Quaid. I was like,
Quaid to build him a car, or Randy Quaid's trying to get Robert Duvall to build him a car, and he says, "I got a driver," and he says, "Who is it?" He goes, "He's somebody," and he's like, "Who? You could teach him." And Robert Duvall stops his tractor and points at his hound dog. He said, "That's the best hound dog in 3 states, and I didn't teach it a damn thing." So,
yep, that's awesome.
But I think the main thing is just you have to, the best you can, block out all the noise. Stay off the internet. Stay off Twitter. Only have people around you that truly value you as a person and want the best for you. Stay away from people who just want to try to get something out of you. And eventually your talent will take over, and you're going to have adversity. And when it hits, don't run from it. And it's hard to say that but to be the guy that has to do it, because you go through that initial, being away at college and everything being harder and the competition being tougher and the maybe not things happening as fast as you want to. You just got to keep going in there. And that was, Derrick's freshman year. He was frustrated with his playing time. And, the most I talked to him after high school was that first semester at Alabama in the fall when he was, mad about his playing time. And I was like, man, your opportunity's coming. You just got to keep going in there every day, go to class. I think if you do simple better than everybody else, then you end up being successful.
I love that.
The guys who don't go to class, it's the guys that let their attitude affect their performance and things like that maybe have as much or not more ability than certain guys that don't make it. So, just do the simple, basic stuff and your talent will take over eventually.
Yeah, that's great.
So awesome to hear, Coach. Hey, thank you so much for coming on, Coach. Can we get do we got about 10 more minutes of your time here?
We only have
No, 3. Hey, he's giving the thumbs up here. We got 3 questions
all
left
right,
here,
all right, Coach. I was going to try to get you off the hook early.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, this is a great interview. Thank you so much. Again, we're talking to Coach Bobby Ramsay, Mandarin Mustangs head football coach, state champions, Carson Beck, top Georgia commit for QB. Shane, what do you got on as your last question for Coach here?
I'm just kind of curious. I mean, what approach do you take with your players with social media nowadays?
You have to, we have a team rule with social media that number one, you can't air your dirty laundry on social media. So, we're never going to rip the team or the coaches or anything like that. If that happens, you're going to lose playing time. I think you talk to them about the fact that, hey, look, colleges look at that stuff. Jobs look at that stuff, and just Twitter isn't really the big one. I think you worry about more is like Snapchat and Instagram.
Yeah,
right. And being responsible with your cameras. We tell them you're not allowed to video anything in the locker room. I know, everybody likes nothing can happen without getting your camera out. And I told the guys, I said, look, just because something doesn't appear on social media doesn't mean it never happened. You don't have to film every single thing and send it to everybody so they can see it. And getting them to understand the consequences of being irresponsible with social media, that, hey, look, if you film the wrong thing and send it out, you could be looking at some criminal charges. It's a responsibility that you have. And we've been fortunate. We haven't really had any major issues with that kind of stuff, but it's something that you worry about and hope that that they make good decisions. You know, we tell them we don't trash talk on social media. We had a big rivalry game last week. Like, look,
Yeah, congratulations on the win.
Want to
appreciate
know?
it. You know, if they are like, hey, look, if they want to run their mouths, if they want to talk this and that, that's fine. You know, we're just going to play football. And you know, are we perfect with it? No. Do we talk about it every day? No. But it is something that I think we've been able to manage, and hopefully it continues.
It's amazing. It's a huge part of coaching now that just didn't
Oh,
exist when we were in high school in the 90s, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you know, as far as, you know, promoting your players on social media, like putting it out there, hey, this kid had a great practice today. You know, we do that stuff, but you got to be careful because I don't want that to be the norm and be like, okay, so I can only get a good practice out of you if I, give you a shout out on social media. You know, it really shouldn't be that way. I mean, so it's just, I think it's a tool you have to be careful with. I don't think you want to overdo it. But you really want to make sure that you're educating your players about how it can really derail them because
nobody wants to become Laramie Tunsil on draft night.
I certainly hope not. I mean, I would be disappointed in him and myself if that happened, but
not him, just anybody out there. Heed the warning that Coach Ramsay is saying. Just stay away from it. You know, be smart with it, and don't get yourself caught in that situation, right, Coach?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, just because it doesn't appear on social media doesn't mean it didn't happen. You know, you just keep it in your memory bank and then think about it and giggle about it. But you know, and you know, when females are involved, you better be smart and respectful. And you know, there's a lot of guys that have abused that and have done things with women they shouldn't do involving social media, and it's cost them, and as it should. And you know, so. You just hope that when they're in those situations that they're responsible and they watch the other guy make the mistake and just say, hey, look, I'm glad I kept my phone away, or I'm glad I didn't put anything out there that I shouldn't have, because once it's out there, it's out there.
We all do things that we
like, well, we can, I just watched a documentary about the Steubenville case with up there in Ohio, and that's how they investigated him, was going back and text messages and all those kinds of things. So,
you could see why Coach Ramsay is Coach of the Year, because not only is he, a strategist and great with the X's and O's, but he's actually, cares about his players and his dog.
Yeah.
Coach Ramsay's bringing us on location here, guys. Where are we going?
Coach, you've been way more than generous with your time, so we're gonna end it here. Any final thoughts from Shane or from Matt? Because I just know that I would love to bring Coach back once the football season's over and get some more thoughts for him.
Yeah, I'd love to come back. I'm a big hockey guy, so if Shane wants to, talk some Calgary Flames,
it's going to depend on how they're doing. Come December,
that Sonics hat, man. You had me with the Sonics hat, so
yes. Coach. Okay, hey, man,
my
final thing.
Sean Kemp and all those teams. So you want to have me back anytime, I'd be glad to.
No, we love talking to you. You could see how great he is to talk to, and he's great on the radio. So we love you, Coach Ramsay.
Coach. I got my last thing, and we will end it on this, Coach. To talk to all the other coaches, the ones that aren't the Coach of the Year, the ones that are trying to build their teams and build their squads, whether it's in hockey, wrestling, football. When you get a talent that is known, we have Derrick Henry, we have a Carson Beck. What advice can you give to a coach that maybe hasn't been there before? You have a Heisman winning Derrick Henry. You've been there. So getting to Carson now or anyone in between, it's a big deal. You know how to deal with it. But what advice do you have to kind of end this thing, for those coaches in getting that talent and getting them where they need to go?
I think first off, make sure that you have a strong relationship with that player and understand it's going to be it's going to be a little bit different than it is with some of your other players. It may be a little bit closer, but you don't want to play favorites. Hold them accountable just like you do anyone else. And in fact, even rip them in front of the team sometimes. So that way everybody else sees, hey, if Coach will get on this guy, he'll get on me too. And then make sure all the I think the main thing is managing them and making sure that, you know, the intangibles, the character, the decision making, all those things are in line, because that's what's going to derail them. It's not going to be their ability. I mean, yeah, their ability is going to take them so far, and everybody's got a ceiling, but most guys fail because they just don't have the right people around them. And you just want to make sure they're going in the right direction with the right people around them, going to class, making good decisions, and that you know, they maintain a humbleness and a humility and a hunger about them. And if they do that, they'll keep working, and don't ever let them think that they're above the team, even though that, you know, they're talented and their talent is unique and special. Team always comes first, and winning matters above everything else.
Coach,
Wow.
that is so great. Thank you so much for coming on the cast. Coach, is it true you guys are going to be on ESPNU this season?
Yes, October 18th, we're playing another high school in Jacksonville, Sandalwood. They have a kid, Jeff Sims. He's committed to Florida State. So, you know, they wanted to put that on to see those two guys go at it.
Yep,
And-
that's going to be awesome. We already said it. It's a DVR alert. We've already set our DVR
Right.
for that one.
Right. Cool.
Yes.
Cool.
Coach, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming on. You are
I
fine
enjoyed
to
it,
sign
man.
off
Great.
now.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Oh yeah, bro. We'll
Yeah,
have you back real soon.
Not a problem.
Yeah,
Coach
bring basketball
Bobby
back to
Ramsay.
Seattle, man. Good luck.
Yes, bring
Thanks,
basketball
Coach.
back to Seattle. Thank you, Coach. That was Coach Bobby Ramsay
Thanks,
from the
Coach.
Mandarin
Thanks, guys.
Mustangs. You are fine to sign off now. Thank you so much, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And we will hopefully see Carson Beck rise up the Devi line due to that cast. What such
I'm
an awesome guy.
I'm drafting him now, no matter what.
I am so drafting that guy. I mean, look at that tape. Look at that coach. Just hear from him the philosophy. That was great.
What an awesome dude, huh?
What
Yeah.
a great guy. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
great. I really
mean-
feel special getting that opportunity. Thank you,
could
Sez.
just-
That was
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, no problem, man. You guys both did great, and I can't wait to talk to him and more guys again. So
Yeah. So,
All right.
Shane, thank you so much, man. Sez, thank you so much. Where can everybody find you? Shane, you go first.
Find me on Twitter at Sealy_Shane.
Sez.
at Alan Seslowski, AlanSeslowsky, at Alan Seslowski.
Ooh,
Season long
that
says
sounds great.
and DFS Army, join up the season long content I'm providing there, doing waiver wire podcast with Shane for DFS Army as well as the Flex Network. And I am in their season long chat room answering questions. It seems like all day and all night.
Woo.
You know what's great about this endeavor is I just love so much answering these questions. Like when I find a fantasy football team that has two quarterbacks that was drafted before the 8th round, I love slipping in them DMs and saying, "Let me help you. Let me drive this car back on the track." For Alan Seslowski, aka at Season Long says, I messed that up. For Flex Shane and I, this is the Flex Network. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Coach Bobby Ramsay. See you later.